Well, here we are. What can we say about the biggest album of Kylie's career? Except for. And. And possibly even. Or possibly I just got my sound effects mixed up. I'm not sure. Fever, it's the album that finally helped Kylie crack the United States. It's the album that sold more than 8 million copies worldwide. And it's the album that finally allowed Kylie fans everywhere to walk straight up to their mums, their dads, their brothers, their sisters, to strangers in the street, to all the doubters, and simply whisper one thing: "See, I told you so." Aiden joins me via Skype from Canada. Welcome, Aiden.
Hello, everyone.
All I can say is, kaboom!
She just like totally blew up out of. Well, I guess that she was really not expecting it either, but I'm sure a lot of other people weren't either.
Out of the blue, like a meteorite. Although, in saying that, I believe that she could get there. I remember saying at Impossible Princess, I was typing on Say Hey frantically, she will not only return to pop, she will redefine it. And here it was for us. So you're about to remind us all about that mega single, the one that I just can't quite remember the name of. But first, a quick reminder about that first single. It was actually given a really solid outing before it was even released during the On a Night Like This tour. And you've got to trust me on this, it was not a high point of the tour. It wasn't a low point either, but it was definitely, I went 3 times to On a Night Like This, and it was just that little interlude where lots of ladies would run off to the bathroom, people would go and grab a hot dog or whatever. It was a little break time for a lot of people. But can't get you out of my head, Aiden. What did it do?
It did, oh my god, it did everything. Looking up today, I'm like looking at my notes I have here, and I'm like, I don't even know where to start now. Because what's not to say about this song? It pretty much did everything you could imagine for a pop song. Entering at number 1, both the UK, Australian charts, number 1 in 40 countries throughout the world, including Canada. One of the most successful singles of all time, 5 million copies physical worldwide, 5 million digital as well.
And as you keep going, because we need to just get across the phenomenon that was this song, and the video clip and the packaging and the marketing, and poor Victoria Beckham crying in the fetal position during the whole thing, which was just added to the deliciousness of the whole scenario. But it would have been even bigger if they hadn't deleted it. Now, I'm not saying they should have done that, shouldn't have done that. It was probably a really smart move. But the Can't Get You Out of My Head single was deleted because they thought, okay, the momentum here was phenomenal. Let's push the album. Let's move the album forward. They did all kinds of things, clever things. But this single, it would have been even bigger.
One of the records it broke, record-breaking 8 weeks at number 1 on the Airplay chart in the UK. Became the first ever to obtain 3,000 radio plays in a single week.
3,000 radio plays in a single week.
Like, can you believe that? Like, insane. Most played song in the UK of 2001. Overall sales in the UK alone, 1.2 million. It's her best-selling single in the UK as well as globally.
Oh yeah.
This is an interesting fact in relation to her cracking America. So Can't Get You Out of My Head only made it to number 7 in the States. The Locomotion back in 1988-89 made it to number 3. However, Can't Get You Out of My Head has actually sold more in the US, over 530,000 copies. Locomotion only did about 500K.
So the chart position doesn't actually give it the full story, right? Yeah,
chart position doesn't really mean anything. I mean, she's got plenty of number 2s that outsold her number 1s in the UK.
Isn't this a great example of what happens when it all just comes together at once, right? And I know Kylie
Yeah.
says the same thing, but I mean, it wasn't just for song. Even before it, there was media buzz because of the Victoria Beckham versus
Hmm.
Kylie thing. So there was already something generated about this song beforehand.
Yeah.
And then, kaboom, this video clip. Jesus, it was phenomenal. We hadn't seen anything like this before. It was just so fresh, so modern. And I describe all of Fever, but particularly this song, as it's electronic but very clean electronic. Sometimes you get
Hmm.
electronic music and it's just buzzing and all over the place, and that can be fun. But this was a very
Yeah.
clean, white electronic sound. I loved it.
It really did bring a new era, whether people like to admit it or not, of pop songs.
It did. It
And
set the trend.
it was like, and I mean, Can't Get You Out of My Head is when my whole Kylie journey started. Like a lot of North American people back in 2000, late 2001, early 2002. And
Is that right? So
it was
this was where
actually
you caught on to Kylie, is it? In
this is
Canada?
where I first caught on to Kylie. My family is actually from the UK. It was my mom who, and I remember this so well, her showing me the Can't Get You Out of My Head video. You remember those like quick time like buffer, like it would
Yes.
buffer for like 10, 15 minutes and then play,
Very
and the quality
novel at the
was
time, I have to say. Yep, yep.
complete, like the the quality was so bad compared to today. But she
Buffering for
showed me
15
that video
minutes.
clip,
Yep, yep.
and I just was like, who knew, like 17 years later I would still be here and be a huge fan. And I mean, the video was absolutely everywhere. I mean, it wasn't just on the music channels. You went into anywhere like that had a TV and you saw Can't Get You Out of My Head.
Huge screens. I remember at the top of record stores, where the ones where you have to go down escalators to get down, and the huge screens. It was just on a loop. It was in video stores, DVD stores. It was just everywhere. It was amazing.
It
She
was
was everywhere, and every newspaper every single day would have an article about Kylie, not necessarily about the song, but because she was in in the biggest possible way ever. She was in.
and but then this new generation of fans coming in and just being amazed by this pop goddess who has all of a sudden come into their lives and been like, oh my god, where has she been my entire life? These people, you look at the footage back from her signing, I think it was at Virgin Records in New York City,
Yes, I
and
love
how
that.
swamped she was with fans absolutely
And
everywhere. It
didn't
was
she look
like,
amazing when she went over there too? I often say when Kylie goes to America and does performances on TV and stuff, usually there's something off. I don't know what happens to her when she gets off on that plane, but not during the Fever era. She looked phenomenal. It was just smack on. Everything was perfect. By the way,
she
can I borrow
really,
your mum for a second? My God, she's awesome. She introduced you to this song. Get out.
I
My mum
know,
told me
and
to turn it
it,
off.
it's so funny because I remind her of that. I'm
Oh,
so proud.
she sounds like a good stick. Talk to me about this video clip. Can't get you out of my head.
First thing that's talked about is that, that big, well, not really. She looks so tall in the video where she's wearing that white kind of
The
gown,
hooded
capey
white
hood kind of thing.
jumpsuit, the one that,
The
comedians love to
jumpsuit,
get
yeah,
into now. Yes, that she was
yeah,
taped into, apparently.
taped into, yeah.
Yes.
And
She's
I
just
mean, I think that,
seducing the viewer, though, the whole time. She's
yeah.
just making love to the viewer. Incredible stuff. I also remember around this time, she was so in, Kylie was so in, that they even said that the Taliban were furious about Kylie because she represented everything about a liberated woman. Um,
Yeah.
I think it was a big media beat up, don't get me wrong, but I think the
Mhm.
spirit of it was true. And it also just goes to show how huge she was. That in the aftermath of September 11,
Mhm.
she just represented hope and fun and joy. And
Yeah.
Kylie became such a symbol for, actually, this is just the joy and the freedom that we take for granted. We can't forget that Fever, Can't Get You Out of My Head, they were against the backdrop of September 11. which really did shift the world and made a lot of people despair. So this album came through as a ray of hope and light and fun at a time where, God, it was sorely needed.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting perspective and something I didn't think about for a lot of years. You know, it can't get you out of my head, and Fever was happening concurrently, or just after that time.
So, looking at the artwork and the imagery of this album, you've talked about cohesion in this album. Not only in the sound, though, was it, or in the video clips. It was throughout the whole package, because the artwork for this album, even the font that they decided to use, everything was schmick. It was spot on.
It pops out. It's, you know, not overly complicated, but it's very, I think, like an album like Light Years represents the album really well. And just holding up that microphone, I think it's almost like, you know, her saying, "This is it. You know, this is the album."
And this
That's
is
just
what I
going to
do
make me huge.
as well. This is
Yeah,
what I do. I loved it. It
yeah,
was it was sort of very unapologetic in a way. I loved it.
yeah.
The confidence of having a microphone, for example, for me, whether I read way too much into things, but having a microphone in her hands, showing I am a singer, when obviously her voice has been one of the most criticised parts of her career. Bold. I thought it was awesome and sent a very clear message. This is what I do. Can you tell I'm gushing? Like, I feel like an 8-year-old girl here who's just
Yeah.
got a cupcake here. But I'm also thinking the B-sides. The B-sides don't deserve to be called B-sides. They were fantastic. They all could have been on the album or singles, really. I mean, the
Very.
B I love to this day a lot of the B-sides more than some of the album tracks. I love
Yeah.
them.
So all the B sides that were included on the singles, and plus, whenever you feel like it, were included on some version of the album somewhere on Earth. Um, just thinking about that now, I think that's her only album to do that. Where somewhere, whether it was Japan, whether it was Australia, here in Canada, the B sides were featured on some version of the album somewhere.
What did we have? We had Boy as the B-side of Can't Get You Out of My Head. Somewhere along the line there
Yeah,
was Rendezvous at Sunset. Tightrope was a bonus track on the Australian album. For me, it never felt like a bonus track because it was just always there on the version that I
yeah,
bought. Baby, which I love.
yeah. My favorite.
Oh, good. We share the same favourite. A lot of people don't particularly like that track, but Baby, Good Like That was there too.
Boy was on the US edition of the album,
Really?
along with Butterfly.
Get out, Butterfly. They
Yeah,
finally
they
realised
actually
their
put
error.
Butterfly on the US edition of Fever,
Oh,
and I think they
fantastic.
did that because of its club success. I feel like that's why they did that.
You're spot
Um,
on, because Butterfly was a success in America. It was, don't forget, between Enjoy Yourself and Fever, there were no Kylie releases except for the limited release of Butterfly, which was actually a fairly good club hit, wasn't it? Or dance hit in the States.
yeah, yeah. I reached the top 20, which is fairly good.
Scooby Doo was out as a movie at the time. She had Whenever You Feel Like It as a track off that. I'm
Yeah,
not particularly keen on that, but there's a couple of versions of that, by the way. There's one version that
yeah.
I can tolerate, and the other one, yeah, not so much.
I hear apparently it came actually from the Lightyear sessions originally. Um,
Ah,
and was a demo during Light Years, and then they carried
ah.
it over to the Fever era, completely reproduced it, and used it for Scooby Doo.
Oh, there you go. See, and that makes sense because for me, it never quite fit the project. Not a criticism at all, but more. It never sat right with me as the opening track of the album. Most fans disagree with me. I'm aware of that. What did you make of More, track one on Fever?
I very much I like More. It's definitely fits the album overall. That the kind of new disco sound to it. It's very. My one criticism would be that it's very long. For
Four
the
minutes
longest track
40.
on the album, to stick it at number one, kind of drags on a little bit, and very kind of weird is that it's really only her second album to not use the lead single as the opening track, unless you count
Yes,
Password.
yes. Thank
on
you.
Light Years. It's an anomaly in a discography because it's like this isn't the lead single.
And it was brave because how can't you have "Can't Get You Out of My Head" as the number one track on the album? But that's what I mean. This was not paint by numbers. This was a true creative project, and it came together very fast. She often talks about this project was relatively easy compared to other recordings, certainly compared to X or something like that, where they just
Yeah.
trolled through dozens and dozens of songs. This came along quite fast. Track 2 on the album is actually single 3 off the album, which is Love at First Sight, which I was very excited because I like it when Kylie releases songs with the same name. I don't know why. It's just a bit weird. Clearly, it's a Kylie favourite. I think personally because she had a lot of a hand in writing it, so she's very proud of this track. But yeah, she does it to death, doesn't she, in tours? So clearly, it's a
She
favourite.
she does. I mean, to be really honest, I wouldn't miss it in the set list if she took it out.
Yeah, no, she should take it out of
Yeah.
tours. But as a track and as a single, whoo, fantastic! I love the video clip too. Those funny little dance moves though, they look
Yeah.
easy, but trust me, I'm doing them as we speak. They're hard to do, very difficult.
It's funny. It's actually funny you said it was a second single at first because for a long time I actually thought it was a second single because it technically was here. We
You
did
got
get
the
In Your
remake
Eyes,
over there in America and Canada,
and
didn't you? That horrible pansy style remake of this song.
we did.
But Love at First Sight, an amazing track on Fever. And then we come to track 3, which we've spoken about, Can't Get You Out of My Head. Uh, should we rave any more about this? It is worth mentioning that Kathy Dennis and Rob Davis actually wrote this. And didn't somebody else almost get their clutches? Another artist almost got their clutches into this
Sophie
song.
Ellis Bextor.
That's right.
It's another one of those tracks that was meant for her.
Yes.
No one else was supposed to have it.
No.
When, reading and listening to her talk about how she heard the demo and she was like, oh my God, like this is it. She knew she had struck gold. She knew it was going to be a hit.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I listen to it, I kind of think, oh my God, like, is this how she felt when she heard it
Yes.
for the first time? Because it really is. It's an absolute stroke of pop perfection.
If it had been sung by Sophie Ellis Baxter, even in its most beautifully produced form, it wouldn't have been the same hit.
No.
Track
Yeah.
4 on the album is Fever. It's the title track. What do we make of Fever? It's sort of a little bit divisive, this track. I love it.
Definitely not my favorite title track of hers, but it has grown on me a lot over the years. I used to really dislike it. Quite, I've joked with other people, she's the only pop star out there that could make being gravely ill sexy. With
I love that.
because the lyrics do deal with kind of talking about illness. She's using her, Kylie charming innuendo and everything.
And it's
throughout
interesting
it.
you say that because I also think only she could get away with that performance she did on The Audience with Kylie in the UK, but where Boy George was in the audience, because it's just stupid.
Yeah, and I mean she's being wheeled around and on the tour as well, wheeled around in a hospital bed. And
Yes,
everything. It's
yes.
oh my
Like you
God.
say, making illness sexy. That's quite funny. Now, track 5. Oh, God. Okay. On Enjoy Yourself, there was a song that it took me months to work out where is this song about recycling, and I finally found it. It was Heaven and Earth. On this album, there was a rumor that there was and remember the internet, it was around, but it wasn't as prolific as it was. There was a rumor that there was a song about anal sex on this album somewhere.
Oh my God.
I know, and I was like, really? Maybe it's burning up. I don't know, but apparently give it to me.
Oh, it's Give It to Me.
Did you know
How could I
that?
miss that? So, I hate this track. Like
I
that,
don't
there's
like
no
it
other way to
either.
put it. I think Fever could completely do without it, and it
Yeah.
wouldn't change the album at all. And actually, speaking of carrying over from Light Years, apparently this is another song that was written during Light Years
Get out,
um,
really?
era. And if you go into the writing credits and who produced it, same guy as Butterfly produced it
Ah,
and
and
wrote it.
Steve Anderson too, I think. Yeah, you're right
Yes.
though. Yeah, Butterfly Man. Good on you. I
So
think you're onto something.
apparently Apparently the Light Years demo is never leaked, but apparently it does exist. Absolute dud. Probably the only one on the album.
And when I finally get my opportunity to have the fan interview with Kylie, which I know I'm going to get sometime in my life, where I can ask her all the most ridiculous questions, where she's going to whisper to her mind, "Oh, can you get me out of here? I can't stand it anymore." But one of my questions would be, give what to you? Give what to you, Kylie? What? Give what to you? Track 6 on the album, Fragile. I mean, I don't know if this can be counted as a ballad, but it tones things down a little bit though, doesn't it? Fragile.
I think it's very underrated, actually. It's a very sweet song. Probably, the ballad of the album in its context.
And for those of you who owned Fever on cassette, like I did, I owned it in every format, let's be fair, but Fragile completed side 1. Time to turn the track. And then on side 2 we had Come Into My World. Now I find this really interesting that she loved the track but didn't so much love her own vocals on this track, on the album version, which, you know, you'd think that she would have cleaned that up before it got to the album, but no, she let it go. But when she wanted it to be a single, or when they decided it was going to be a single, she went straight back into the studio.
The original album version is actually, it sounds a bit demo-ish to me, in comparison to what then became the single/second album version. I've grown to like the original album version. I think it does. I think it has a little bit more of what Fever is overall at its core, more of an electronic sound overall. You know, definitely a more stripped back production.
Although I have to say, sorry to cut you off, Aiden, but I get motion sickness at the best of times. Watching this video clip actually causes a little bit of nausea for me, in the best possible way.
I can totally see why there's so much happening in the video, just all over. But this is the first release I remember anticipating, or first single release, and the first actual. You know, we got a Canadian CD single of it.
Yay!
It was successful here, actually. It got airplay, it got video play. I remember sitting, waiting, you know, reading Kylie.com and being like, Come Into My World is coming out on this date, and then seeing the video, and I'm like, oh my god, there's 4 of her, and how did she do that? She, you know what? She likes videos with multiples of herself.
Oh,
you know,
doesn't she ever?
Me. Did it again. She loves having multiples of herself, but I think this one, I like Did It Again more, actually, but I think this one is just it's charming, and just, you know, singing into the camera, dancing around. There's so much hell going on around her, and she's just there singing into the camera with her shopping. What could be better?
Track 8, In Your Eyes. Now I've got to say, with this track, when I was first listening to Fever over and over and over and over again when it was first released, this one stood out for me. I was like, that has to be single 2. I love this song. I have to admit, I think it's a little bit overdone now. Probably my own fault there for listening to it so many times. But yeah, a fantastic track.
I like it very much. It's got more of a darker tone than the other singles. I like the video clip. I love when she like punches the screen and it's like Kylie and she has that ring. I wanted that so bad. The ring, the Kylie ring logo she had, I'm like, where do I get myself one of those? Like, I wanted it so bad.
Now I know what to buy you for Christmas.
Yes, please do. Because I'll wear it every day, and then, you know, when I need a moment to Kylie punch.
You'll just brand people that you don't like. Oh, actually, will you brand people you don't like, or brand people that you do like?
I guess it has different purposes.
Depends on your mood, right?
Situation.
Loving it. It was a big hit as well, In Your Eyes. Followed that electronic theme as well, and I believe Kylie played a part in writing this song as well. So, yeah. And I also want to add that the fans love it when there is a song that she can sing on tour or at a live performance where there's a particular note that just gets us going, like, yes, suck it, she can sing. Your disco needs you, confide in me. There's one here too, in Your Eyes. Track 9, Dance Floor. Now, this is much maligned, but I actually don't mind the track. What do you make of this song? It's not too bad, is it?
I don't mind it either. I think I've heard other fans call it grade A filler. I think I think it is a filler on the album, to be honest. But in terms of what a filler could be, it's not bad. It's catchy.
Ah,
It's Kylie all over the dance floor, and
exactly.
just a
Very
light-hearted
inoffensive.
track
I like it. It's
for
got a few good hooks to it. I like it.
yeah, I like it.
Now we get
I
into
play it quite regularly, actually.
Yeah, I like it too. Yeah, I don't skip it. A lot of fans do though. But track 10 and 11, Love Affair and Your Love. Now these get into a very mature part of the album, frankly, in my opinion. Like they're mature songs, well developed, well constructed. Uh, wouldn't be suitable for a teeny bopper musician. I think that these represent the direction a lot of people still to this day want Kylie to head down.
I mean, Love Affair is actually another one that took a while to grow on me, but I absolutely love it now. I think I think it could have been potentially a single. It's got that, little bit of a darker edge to it. Catchy track. I wish she'd do it live, actually. She
Yes.
never has, but yeah, I'm definitely a fan. I've I've seen so many people crucify Your Love in it. I think it's actually probably one of my favorites on the album. I think the production is absolutely. I love the guitar
Yes.
throughout the song. It's brilliant. Probably within my top three of the album.
Now, the final track on the album, True, is Burning Up. I love this track. I wouldn't go as far as to say it was a missed single opportunity because I get why they went everywhere they went with Fever, but it could have been a single, in my opinion. I love the Fever tour version of this. I love the projections they have behind her when they're doing this. Just fantastic imagery really there. And I also love the fact that during one of the performances of Burning Up, that big huge volcanic dress that she was wearing got ripped off completely, revealing everything that was going on underneath. Quite a funny moment
Yes.
in Kylie history.
I think it's a very good closer to the album. Fits very well, at least the standard album anyway. Got that very, kind of slow beginning and the build up, and then all of a sudden you have this chorus, and it's just totally like dance and pop, and you can move to it. And actually, I think it was potentially considered as a single at one point, but they moved on instead of releasing it. I think it was supposed to potentially come after Come Into My World, I've heard before.
Well, tell me about
But
this. Like, we've got the biggest album of her career, and unless you lived it, you don't understand. There was just such momentum here. Was it right? Why only four singles? I mean, surely we talk about missed single opportunities with other albums. Here, I mean, there was just a missed opportunity for more singles, wasn't there? Surely. Why did they wrap the project up?
yeah,
Not so quickly, per se, but so prematurely.
I actually like the amount of singles, and I think, in my opinion, Fever has the most immaculate singles run of any of her albums to date. Definitely her most successful run, that's for sure.
Yes.
Perfect choices. Yeah, I think they could have kept going and milked it a little bit more. I've heard apparently title track Fever was potentially considered at one
I
point as well.
heard that too. That would have been a
Um,
mistake. When we look at the Fever album chart wise around the world, number one in Australia, number one in Austria, number one in Germany, number one in Ireland, number one in Scotland, number one in the UK. In the US, it got to number three. Is You were talking about Can't Get You Out of My Head before, I think. So yeah, in the actual
yeah,
album, it got to
number
number
three,
three.
outpeaked. Can't get you
Yes.
out of my head. And actually, here in Canada, it peaked at number 10. And actually, the thing that always shocks me, and this is the thing about charts not equaling sales or
Yeah.
success, is Aphrodite actually charted higher here. It reached number 8.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but Fever has sold truckloads more than Aphrodite, that's for sure.
And as I said in the intro, 8 million copies, well well in excess of 8 million copies sold worldwide. But I mean, just in the UK alone, there was like 5 times platinum and 7 times platinum in Australia, and it was lingering, because Kylie albums, sometimes they don't linger for very long. Like, they'll have a peak because of the fan base, really, and then they'll drop. This just lingered and lingered and lingered for more than a year, easily. Probably well over a year, in fact.
Yeah, and I was just looking earlier. It was on the year-end charts in, I think, Australia and I think the UK as well. 3 years in a row, 2001, 2002, 2003, made an appearance on the year-end. I know definitely in Australia it did. So mind-blowing that it did that, and it kept that momentum really for two to 3 years.
And this was the album that was, it was the meeting of commercial success with critical praise, and definitely this is the album, and the songs on this album are those that are her legacy. Important question to finish up on, though. Fever was her biggest selling album, her most commercially successful, possibly her most praised album. Is it her best album, Aiden?
No. It's not. I prefer when Kylie is more artistic and
go on, call the shots. What's the best album? Just give it
experimental. A name. I'm one of the people. I love Impossible Princess. I'm one of those people. I'm like, sometimes I think I'm like, I kind of look around and I'm like, oh my God, maybe I'm not so unique. A lot of people like Impossible Princess.
Could it be her most exciting then? Would you acknowledge that? Because you lived through this era, right? It was an exciting time to be a fan.
Absolutely, it's her best era. To be a Kylie fan during the Fever era, you struck gold, because it was just something that words cannot put into. You cannot put it into words. You had to be there, and whether you like it or not, she made a huge impact on pop culture at the time. And you can deny all you want, but she came out there and she changed everything. So lucky to have lived through it and to look back on it now, and just how much she loved it and how important it still is for her today, how important it is for me as a fan. I have, I say it's not her best, but I surely, don't bite the hand that fed you, right?
That's right.
Because it's like, without Fever, I may not even know who the hell Kylie Minogue is.
And I like what you said last time. When Fever hit the jackpot in the United States and Canada, you said it opened the floodgates for all her previous work to be released over there, or at least available over there, right?
It was, I actually jotted a few things down. It was insane. I think of when I go into a big record store and it's like they've got piles and piles of the biggest acts, Madonna, and their racks are extending a few rows and everything. They have so much. That was Kylie at the time. I would flip through and it's like they had so much. I remember a few things seeing, the greatest remix hit series. There are so many copies of Light Years, including the special edition. Fever, obviously, import singles. They had everything. It all the way back to her first album. It was insane, and I wanted all of it. I knew I would love it.
Aiden, I'm so glad that Fever sort of opened those floodgates for all those American and Canadian fans. That warms the cockles of my heart, I have to say. Aiden, thank you so much for talking Fever with me tonight.
You're welcome. This was amazing. It's I'm so glad I get to participate. And Kylie, if you're listening, your Canadian fans are here, your US fans are here. We're here. We want you to come. Well, come tour.
Hang on, Kylie, listen. Just don't listen to him. Come to Australia first, because you've only released those dancing tour dates in the UK. Forget Canada
what the
and
hell,
America. There's not many fans over there. No, don't listen to him.
But we're here. I'm one of them. We come perform an exclusive show.
Do you know what you should do, Aiden? You should come to Australia.
Tentative plans are to do something if she doesn't come.
Yay! There you go.
So we'll see what happens.
We'll do a face-to-face podcast. No more Skyping.
happens, but I'm like, oh my God, I cannot die without seeing her.
No, you can't. You
Or
don't
can
deserve
that
that.
her, you
Nobody
know.
deserves that. Aiden, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Good
We'll see you
night.
again next time.